Arizona Wildcats beat the Washington Huskies tonight. Final score, Arizona Wildcats 86 to the Washington Huskies 62. I wanted to see more assists, definitely, for the Arizona Wildcats. I was more interested in seeing them dribble penetrate and kick out to somebody. They did that quite a bit. The Arizona Wildcats did quite a bit of dribble penetration and kicking out to Gabe York. He took 8 3-point attempts, but he only made 2 3-point attempts. He ended up with 13 points tonight. He had, I think he had, it says here he had six rebounds. We had T.J. McConnell with 11 assists tonight. So I get the assist that I wanted. The total amount of turnovers for the Arizona Wildcats was 8. They had 8 total turnovers, and the Washington Huskies had 12 total turnovers. T.J. McConnell with 3 turnovers, so that's assist to turnover ratio 10 assists to 3 turnovers. That's okay. I mean, it would be better if it would maybe had 2 turnovers. That would be more consistent, I think. But he did pretty good. Stanley Johnson, I'm looking at the ESPN stats here. He didn't have any turnovers, so that was pretty cool. He had 2 assists, so he did pretty good. He had 2 personal fouls. Made 1 out of 2 from 3-point land. Elliot Pitts made 1 out of 2 from 3-point land also, and those were your 3-point shooters. The Washington Huskies were down by, I would say, about 20 points for most of the game. But then the Washington Huskies kind of got on a roll and started knocking down some 3-pointers. It was Andrew Andrews from the Washington Huskies that knocked down a couple 3-pointers. Also, Donovan Dorsey knocked down a couple 3-pointers. So they ended up with 6 for 20, so they were shooting 30% from 3-point land. And the Arizona Wildcats shot 30%. Also 4 for 13 from 3-point land, which I don't think is too bad, but I was listening to one of the sportscasters, and he was saying, 37 to 40% from 3-point land is more consistent. But the thing about it is I think that the thing that was kind of bothersome about it was that Gabe York had just had a lot of open 3-point attempts, and he didn't knock them down. I mean, every guard would go in there and dribble penetrate and draw a bunch of defenders, and then that left Gabe York open, and he just couldn't get his shots down. But he ended up 5 for 6 from free throws, from the charity stripe. So he did pretty good there. Stanley Johnson had 5 for 5. Caleb Parzewski had 2 for 2. T.J. McConnell had 2 for 2. The only one that kind of had a hard time from the charity stripe free throw land was Brennan Ashley for the Arizona Wildcats. The Washington Huskies shot 85% from field goals from the charity stripe. They did pretty good. Andrew Andrews had 6 for 6. Nigel Williams Goss had 4 for 4. So those guys were on their mark with the free throws and the charity stripes. They did pretty good. The Arizona Wildcats has 28 defensive rebounds, while the Washington Huskies had 22 defensive rebounds. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more rebounds, total rebounds from Caleb Tarczewski, and most people are. He ended up with 3. Caleb Tarczewski from the Arizona Wildcats ended up with 3 total rebounds tonight. Hollis-Jefferson had 9 offensive rebounds, or 9 total rebounds, had 3 offensive rebounds, 6 defensive rebounds. We had Elliot Pitts with 2 offensive rebounds, so that's pretty cool. I really stress the importance of offensive rebounds. I think they're really valuable. Andrew Andrews from the Washington Huskies had 3 offensive rebounds, and Mike Anderson had 2 offensive rebounds, and those were, I think that for the Washington Huskies it was Anderson, Andrews, and Kemp that were the high scorers. They scored over 10 points, 13 for, 13 for Kemp, 18 for Andrews, and well, Anderson didn't score over 10. He had 8 points, but they were some key points that he was knocking in. It was the Arizona Wildcats had 18 total assists, while the Washington Huskies had 15 total assists. And like I said, I said that T.J. McConnell, the point guard for the Arizona Wildcats, had 10 assists all by himself out of that 18. So that was pretty cool. William Goss from the Washington Huskies had 6. Andrews had 4 from the Washington Huskies. So that's 10 out of your 15. So those guys were big contributors. Andrew Andrews was the one that was the hardest. That would be usually Rondé Hollis-Jefferson from the Arizona Wildcats he's given the role of defending or shutting down the best player on the team. So I would probably say tonight it was probably Andrew Andrews. He had 5 for 13 field goal percentage, while Rondé Hollis-Jefferson had 7 for 10 field goal percentage, and so did Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson also had 7 for 10. I always like when I get a couple assists from Stanley Johnson, because I think it's really valuable. It's really nice to show that he can play somewhat as a team. Although whenever Stanley Johnson for the Arizona Wildcats played against ASU, I heard that he gave up 20 points to ASU, and I think that might be something that he definitely needs to work on. More defensive play. The Arizona Wildcats had 9 steals compared to the Washington Huskies, which only had 3 steals. We had T.J. McConnell with 3 steals, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson from the Arizona Wildcats with 2 steals, Elliot Pitts with 2 steals. The person that made the most steals for the Washington Huskies was Mike Anderson again. I think the 8 turnovers is kind of definitely more acceptable to Sean Miller than anything above 10 turnovers. So I'm sure that Sean Miller's kind of happy about only having 8 assists tonight, or 8 only committing 8 turnovers tonight. A lot of guys were in foul trouble for the Arizona Wildcats, actually. So we had Caleb Tarczewski with 4 fouls, and I think that whenever he starts getting into foul trouble, then he doesn't rebound as aggressively, and that's why he only ended up with 3 rebounds tonight. Elliot Pitts had 4 personal fouls, but like I said, he knocked down 1 for 2 from 3-point land, and got 1 assist. So the Arizona Wildcats had 5 guys in double figures. Stanley Johnson with 20, Brennan Ashley with 11, Hollis-Jefferson with 17, T.J. McConnell with 10. Wow, T.J. McConnell had a double-double, 10 points and 10 assists. So that's kind of interesting. Gabe York with 13 points. So we did pretty good. The Arizona Wildcats did pretty good. I think that the Arizona Wildcats are going to play against Washington State fairly soon. I think that game is on Sunday, but I'm not quite sure. But I think that the Washington State Beavers are not as good as supposedly as Washington. So we might have we might do even better against Washington State. But Washington State, I think Washington actually, the Washington Huskies lost Upshaw for the game tonight, and I think that was a big killer for them. I think that's one of the reasons why the Washington Huskies were ranked better than the Washington State Beavers, was because of Upshaw. Because Washington State started up the season with 11-0 on record. So anyway, the Arizona Wildcats beat the Washington Huskies. The Arizona Wildcats 86 to the Washington Huskies 62.